Welcome to Beyond the Circus. This is Dale Hummel, along with co-star Ryan Rash.
Hello. I don't think hello is appropriate this morning because this is just tragic.
Nothing good about today.
No. And I guess, like, for the listeners, I don't know when this will drop or whatever, but we're basically 12 hours after the attempted assassination of President Trump at his Pennsylvania rally yesterday. And before we get into, the details of that, the one thing that I want to say that I think has gone grossly overlooked by the media and all the covers that I've seen is just absolutely disturbed and heartbroken for the rally member that lost their life and the other two that are in critical condition. And they have not released any names, but whoever those families are, sympathies go out to you. And those people have really been overlooked a lot by the mainstream media, in my honest opinion.
This hit me hard as well, Ryan, and I'm gonna try to give the benefit of the doubt that they were not wanting to release those names until they had a chance to.
I know they haven't released names, but they're not even saying anything.
No, a little bit here and there, but maybe the family members would rather keep it more. There's a lot of things that could happen, but I have felt
because the media always cares about what other people think.
Yeah, it's not good. Those supporters were simply there. They were not in the target zone. They were not there to be assassinated. Any of those things. And you're right. If you weren't listening quite a bit, you wouldn't even know that there were victims outside of President Trump. And not trying to take anything away from the assassination attempt of him, but I feel very strongly that there's been no attention given whatsoever to the other victims.
Right. And like I said, I get that their names haven't been released, and that's for obvious reasons and all this other stuff. But the fact that by and large, the mainstream media has not even mentioned that someone lost their life and that two other people are fighting for their lives is just awesome.
And when you say mainstream media, this includes Fox. This includes all of them.
Oh, Fox is a pussy. That's all there is to it. Fox has been the worst of all of the media networks reporting on this. Absolutely overcautious, pussy-like. That's all I can say about Fox. Anyway, but
and I had Ryan updating me on what was going on. I had a call from my daughter Katie as soon as it happened. One of her friends was watching the rally, and when that call comes in, at first I was in disbelief that there was confusion, there was something. And I think even Ryan, when I called you, I kind of gave you heads up that this is what I heard, but I don't even know that it's happened. And maybe in a sense that at that point, I didn't even think it did happen, but I was out building fence and probably a good thing I was most of the afternoon and into the evening. And Ryan continued to update me, but it's bad.
So basically, for those of you that live under a rock, I guess, yesterday at his Butler, Pennsylvania rally, Trump had been speaking somewhere between 15 and 20 minutes. And we're going to try very hard to stick to the facts that we know because, again, it's still 12 hours out. It's fresh. Not all the information has come out. But basically, a man with a sniper rifle, obviously, took 5 shots at President Trump. One grazed his ear, and there's actually a photo now that has been confirmed that it's legit, that you can see the bullet passing him after it grazed his ear. It's crazy. Anyway, and one person lost their life and 2 others were injured in these 5 shots. Immediately when Trump felt the bullet graze his ear, he grabbed his ear and went down because below the podium, there is a bulletproof from like knee level down at any of these events, from what I've gathered. Knee level down is bulletproof in case something like this happens. The president can take cover. This isn't confirmed, but they said that he always wears a bulletproof vest. I don't know if that's true, but that's what they say. Anyway, he ducks down and Secret Service immediately jump on top of him. I'm sure most of you have seen about the 2.5 minutes footage. Secret Service say the shooter's down, move. Anyway, the thing that I think that most people, even on the networks that hate Trump, have said that his instincts, not only as soon as he felt that to get down immediately, but when he came up, when they're trying, this man has been shot at. He's bleeding. When he came up, his reaction was to raise his fist in the air to show those people that were there supporting him that he was fine, and he yelled, "Fight, fight." And he continued to do that all the way till they got him in the SUV. He's standing on the right at the SUV door, and he's still raising his fist in the air. And for the man to have that reaction when he had, I can't even imagine what all was going through his brain at that time, but that's a natural instinct. And that's what a leader is. And that's just all there is to it. That is what true leadership is right there.
And where do we even start, Ryan, with let's look at where he was prior to ever running for president, the life that he was living, the quality of life that he was living.
And that's what I have said since that man came down on the escalator in Trump Tower to announce that he was running it was in 2015, but for 2016 presidency. Being president is not a great job. It's not. It's just not. You only, and this is what I've said consistently throughout this, you run for president for three things. You want fame, you want money, or you want power, or you want all three. He was one of the most famous people in the world already. He was a billionaire. He didn't need any more money. And in terms of power, he already had the power to do everything that he needed to do business-wise, personal-wise, all this other stuff, because people forget this. He has been involved in politics as a donor, as a backer, behind the scenes, all this stuff, his whole life. I mean, there are videos and interviews of him in the 80s talking about his involvement in politics and how people have asked him. I remember an Oprah Winfrey interview. Would he ever run? And he said that he's considered it, all this other stuff. This man, whether you want to listen to me or not, he did this in 2016. He did this in 2020. He's doing this in 2024 again, simply because whether you agree with him or not, he wants to try to make this country a better place. And that's all there is to it, because there is no reason. He has been absolutely raked, called things that human beings, I can't even believe that other human beings will say that about anyone, much less someone who was the president, a former president. He has been drugged through the courts. He has been impeached. And now the man was seconds away from losing his life. And if you don't think that his dedication to what he believes he can do to make this country a better place for its citizens is beyond reproach, I can't help you. I can't. You don't have to like his policies. You don't have to like him. This man is doing this because he wants to truly make a difference, and he thinks he can.
And there's still going to be people out there that oppose exactly what you've said. And there is no opposition to it.
The number of comments I've had to delete on my Facebook post is insane. Insane.
And I didn't even go look at that, but I think I would get very angry.
Oh, you would blow people up.
There's so many things, and I don't want this to drag out real long because we are so. I guess it happened 12 hours ago. We don't know that much, and I don't want to go down a path of deception in terms of putting out there speculation in different areas.
Well, I'm going to.
Oh, I'm going to put some things out, but only ones that I'm aware of, and a little bit of a bigger picture. The first one, Ryan, that I would like to take is, and again, I'm not trying to be negative on the Secret Service. There were rumors because of what I call a security breakdown at this rally, and maybe there has been at all of them. I don't know. But rumors that there was requests for more security, and Mayorkas denied those. They fight back saying they didn't happen. We'll know in time whether it did or didn't. I'm sure there'll be inquiries into such, but the common sense approach seemed to not be there yesterday.
Well, the Secret Service did issue a statement this morning saying that there was no additional resources requested. Now, there were those rumors going around, all this other stuff, but I'm just telling you what the Secret Service put out this morning.
Yeah, and I would assume that every campaign is constantly requesting as much Secret Service as they can get. That would be common sense to me. So, yeah, I don't know where that is. I don't know how, Ryan, that rooftop where the shooter was at, how that can't be the main focal point of the Secret Service. I understand from the interview of the gentleman that said he saw the shooter going up the building, bear crawling on the roof with the rifle, pointing it out to the police. The only thing that I can draw a conclusion from is that obviously there's the counter sniper, maybe more of them watching for these things from behind where Trump was speaking. But the gentleman that they interviewed, and you have to take him for his word, and he seems very genuine, very sincere about what he saw, pointing to this shooter and telling the police he's there, and Trump not being taken off stage. I understand it all happened very quickly, but it almost appears as though maybe that area, that building, was under the control of the local police. And I'm not trying to throw darts at them, but just going off the interview that the gentleman gave when he was saying that there were police right there and he was fairly close, that there was some type of communication breakdown, confusion. Maybe the local police weren't completely trained, briefed in what needed to be done. I don't know, but I feel like the fact that a 20-year-old person, we have no idea what kind of training he's had. It doesn't appear as though he needed any special training to get to where he was, nor a lot of planning. It seemed too simple. To me, there was an open gap there that just shocks me it was in place. And I'm sure all of this will come out over time.
Well, there are now multiple videos of not just that interview, but there are multiple iPhone videos of people in the crowd saying, he's got a gun, all this other stuff. In the interview that you're talking about that was on BBC, you probably didn't watch it as many times as I did, but he alerted the local police, but he also
was pointing
at Secret Service and screaming at them too. I think the Secret Service and the first responders and whatever, the way they reacted to cover Trump, all that other stuff, I don't think you could ask for more than what they did. I mean, literally, Trump's
reaction immediately to drop, as you mentioned earlier, just right. All of that. I think on the stage, everything is
right. The immediate perimeter right there. Obviously, the counter sniper that was on the building behind Trump saw the shooter and took him out within seconds. My issue is there's now a map that is up there, and that is the only building that is in shooting range of anywhere near this venue other than where our snipers were.
Now, they did claim that there was one other one 500 meters out, which was in range, but this was the clear obvious one.
I didn't see that one.
Yeah, that came on real late last night. I've never seen in the map just somebody explaining there was another elevated position that any sniper.
I
of
don't
any
know how many
quality.
meters, but according to what I heard this morning, 300 yards is the length that this weapon that was used by this assassin can be accurate at. The building that he was on top of, while it was outside the venue perimeter, it was 130 feet away. And on the map, only one I saw. Why, even though that was outside the perimeter, why it wasn't swept, why there wasn't security. I mean, there was a ladder in place for the man to crawl up on. There's pictures of it.
And that was in place prior to obviously,
Right.
assumably.
Yes.
How is this? We're really missing something here, right?
So I'm not trying to throw shade on anybody, but in this day and age, how let's just say there were two that are in sniper range, two buildings. Okay, let's go with that. Why were those not secure?
Yeah, all I can think of is if they're limited on Secret Service people, maybe that was under the.
And I don't know if it's state police, Secret Service, whoever, whatever. I'm not trying to blame anybody on it, but that is obviously, it's just a fuck up. That's just all there is to it. There's no other way to describe it. And I'm sure going forward, a lot of things will be different. Every lawmaker in the world has called for investigations on this, all this other stuff. And I'm not getting into conspiracy theories or all that, but clearly there's no other way to say there was a fuck up on this in terms of the security breach, in terms of bystanders seeing the man crawl up the building with the rifle, alerting people, all this other stuff. There's video of this that they're putting out on all the mainstream media networks, so you know it's not fake.
No, I agree.
That can't happen.
No.
And it will probably take days and weeks to figure out why, how, who, when, what.
When it shouldn't take very long at all, but it appears to continue to take a very long time.
Well, and then before I get into some other, the press conference that the state Pennsylvania police and the FBI and whoever did last night at midnight Pennsylvania, that was just ridiculous. They gave out no information. They said nothing. They should have waited till they could at least give in the name of the shooter and more details, because they just got up there last night at midnight and said, we can't say anything. That was just dumb. And that's the least of our worries. But in a situation that is this serious, this grave, to the heartbeat, pulse, and tenor of our country, you would think that they would have had a little more forethought on how to handle that. Because again, at 12 o'clock, midnight, not many people are watching, but that's there forever for people to listen to and watch from now on. And it was embarrassing.
I agree. Before we go into the other side of it, I have something that's a little bit trivial for this whole Secret Service debacle, whatever you want to call it, or wherever the breakdown was. My wife made a very sexist comment while watching them take President Trump off the stage, and there was a lady there that was helping him down the stairs, and I'm sure doing a great job. But she did question, is she big enough and strong enough to do what needs to be done? And this is coming from my wife, and so a very sexist comment from her. And the second part, I heard it briefly mentioned, and I could be totally wrong on this one. Ryan, maybe you can add clarity. The lady in charge of, there's a lady, I believe, in charge of the Secret Service, has made a statement long ago that her goal was to make the Secret Service 30% women. Yeah, and I have nothing whatsoever against that, if that is not taking a man out of a position that is actually better qualified. If there's 30% of the Secret Service that are women because they're qualified to do exactly what the men are doing, perfectly fine with that. But to put quotas in, and this goes to a much larger
issue.
picture, than just the Secret Service. But we just have to get away from race, sex, any of those things whatsoever. When we're putting people in positions such as this and many other positions and trying to fill quotas rather than get the best people in those positions is ridiculous. And I'm not even saying that those women on Secret Service, they're probably really, really good. I don't know. So I can't address that properly, but I surely hope that they are some of the very best, irregardless, brown, black, purple, male, female, gay, straight, care less. Let's just get the best ones in there. So that concerned me. So that statement, you heard it as well, Ryan?
Oh yes, no, it's all over the news. Yeah, and your boy Elon, I have to, because you love the Elon.
I'm an Elon fan. Very.
So his comment on X was he posted, I guess when she was named head of this or whatever, that her employment before that is she was head of security at PepsiCo. So he's like, she used to guard Cheetos, which I thought was funny. But anyway.
and maybe she's very qualified.
I'm not saying she's not, but yeah, that's gonna get a lot of attention and a lot of scrutiny, and
I doubt that would have changed anything that happened yesterday, but it may have.
I don't think it would have changed anything that would happen, because I think the people in the immediate perimeter, his security detail acted impeccably, including her.
Agreed.
But the other nonsense on how this rooftop was not either secured, swept, looked at. I mean, I know nothing about security, and I know that if there is a building that has a ladder to the roof 130 yards away from where the president's been, there should be at least, Barney Fife, the deputy, standing there making sure that some bitch can't crawl up there.
I just, and I have neither of us have any background in this, but anybody listening, if you look at that map and just were there and walked through that venue prior to, which they do before they go anywhere, any rally, any type of situation like that, they're putting thought into it before they even get there. Nobody with any common sense
is one deputy, one cop, one standing at that ladder to prevent all of this. Now, I mean, granted, the shooter might have shot that guy there, but at least they would have got him before Trump was on stage or he got up to the roof.
So
it would not have gone undetected if there had been somebody guarding that ladder.
I'm going to make a speculation here, and I'm sure you've seen it many times. What about the counter sniper that you see in the background behind the platform that Trump is speaking? And he's looking in the direction of that building, maybe picked up on the guy pointing that direction, maybe just dumb luck, I don't know what. But then he hesitates and takes his eye off the gun about the time right before maybe you hear the shots fired, and then goes back to the gun and apparently takes out the shooter. It's almost like he's in disbelief, or just, I'm sure you see somebody on a roof from that distance. I'm sure he's trained to just take him out, but I'm sure there was some hesitation for some reason. Did you notice that?
Yeah. And I can't speak to that because, again, I don't know. Like, I don't know what all the protocols are. So
no, nor do I.
And so I don't want to speak to that. Yes, I saw the video. Yes, I have questions about it. I'm sure they will be answered coming up. The next thing that I want to talk about, and I do believe that because this has happened, that we need to probably dial down the rhetoric just a little bit. But President Biden addressing the nation yesterday was pathetic. It was less than 2.5 minutes. He never acknowledged the victims, their families. He never said that he was glad that President Trump was unharmed, safe, nothing. I don't know why they let him go out there and say those things.
I thought he seemed more coherent than usual.
He condemned it, and he said over and over again that there is no political violence, there's no place it is not. I love this. It's not appropriate. Everyone has to condemn it. So I will say, but there was no sympathy, and I guess more than that, not even, because there is no doubt he hates Donald Trump, and I think probably the feeling is mutual. I'm not going to say it's not for Trump to bite him, but
and that's okay.
Leave the empathy.
It's what it is. We just don't
leave the empathy and the sympathy out of it. It didn't even seem like to me there was any sense of urgency to him on this, and how you can overlook, even if you hate Donald Trump, how you can just not even mention the victims that were just rallying it just beyond me. So I thought that was beyond pathetic. Truly.
When you're talking, let's dial it down a little bit. How many from the left, politicians, media, let's go Nancy, Joe himself, your buddy Chuck, The View ladies, how many have made...
Oh, Biden. No, Biden since the debate.
How many have made those statements that this will end our democracy?
He's Hitler, Mussolini, a rapist. I mean,
take a crazy person already. Okay, let's assume crazy, and they're hearing this. That pushes them over the edge. They all of a sudden think that they're becoming the martyr to save the country.
Right.
This is insane.
And the Donald Trump has called people nicknames, like he called Marco Rubio things, and he's given a nickname to everybody. Okay, all of Hillary. His opponents, Crooked Hillary, all this other stuff. I have never. He has said that Biden is the worst president for this country, and that is his opinion. It is also my opinion. It is the opinion of many Americans. He has never said that he is Hitler or all this. Never called Joe a rapist. All these things that they have called him. Maxine Waters has said that she wants Donald Trump taken out multiple times.
Chuck has been right there with her.
Right. The footage of it is insane. It's not just recent. It has been since he won the election. And that was the one thing that I think Fox brought up last night that I was impressed with. And it would think it was Martha. She said, everything changed when he won. Up until that, they didn't like him. They degraded him. They said he wasn't a true candidate, that, they made, they didn't take him seriously, and they definitely didn't talk good about him. But from the point he won that night in 2016, everything changed. And then it was all of these things: Hitler, Mussolini, rapist, the end of democracy, you name it. And since the debate, Joe, and I will say on the debate, Joe was the one calling Trump a loser and a felon and all this other stuff. Trump never did any of those things. And since then, Joe's dialed it way up. There were
yesterday, 2 days ago, was as way up as I've ever heard from.
Right. At his last rally in Michigan, I think is where that was. But I guess what I'm losing my train of thought here, because there's so many thoughts in my head, but I had probably a dozen or more people either snap me, text me, message me last night after this happened. And it's like, you said this was going to happen. You've said it on the podcast. And I know Dale and I have talked about it privately many times. I know that I have said it on the podcast, that especially after, I know I said after that the SCOTUS ruling, he had immunity, all these court cases, the only thing left to do to this man is to kill him. And they just tried yesterday. And I'm not saying that this was done by the Democrats or anything like that. But that's all that's left is to kill him. They've tried every other way to take him out. They've thrown everything else at him. All that is left is to kill him, and they tried yesterday. And it's sad. It makes me angry. I don't think this should happen to anyone. Hannity brought up last night, and that there was a bill put forward to take Trump's Secret Service detail away. They did not give RFK Jr. Secret Service, a man who lost his uncle and his father in political assassinations. He still doesn't have Secret Service detail, and he is a legitimate candidate for president, whether you want to believe it or not.
And that one I watched last night as well, and that shocked me that he has no Secret Service. How is that possible?
He was denied months ago. And so
who's in charge of yes or no? Mayorkas?
Yes, that's what I.
You don't want my opinion on him. We will leave that for another day.
Yeah, probably don't. But I guess I think, and I don't want to get this. I don't want this to become political or anything like that. I don't know how a person in the situation that Trump was faced with yesterday reacts that way. I mean,
reacts then or now? Or
no, the way he reacted on stage.
Yes.
And then the truth. So, I mean, in the sense,
I believe it's the best way for me to summarize. It's just very telling, in my opinion, of him,
who he is.
Yes.
And, for everybody talks about his rhetoric, his tweets, all this other stuff, there's been several things come out on True Social, but I want to read this specifically because I think this was this morning. Thank you to everyone for your thoughts and prayers yesterday, as it was God alone who prevented the unthinkable from happening. We will fear not, but instead remain resilient in our faith and defiant in the face of wickedness. Our love goes out to the other victims and their families. We pray for the recovery of those who were wounded and hold in our hearts the memory of the citizen who was so horribly killed. In this moment, it is more important than ever that we stand united and show our true character as Americans, remaining strong and determined and not allowing evil to win. I truly love our country. I love you all and look forward to speaking to our great nation this week from Wisconsin. I don't know if he came up with that himself, but
he at least approved it. How's that?
Right. So I go back to the fact that, somebody could have wrote that for him and he could have said, yeah, that sounds good.
And likely did.
The way he reacted on stage yesterday, not only knowing to immediately get down below the barrier, but when he came up, his focus was to make sure that those people there knew he was still alive, still standing, and that he was going to carry on. That's what a leader is, people. You can hate him, you can whatever. That moment will be etched in this history forever. That picture of blood over his cheek, in his ear, his fist in the air, and this American flag waving in the background, that will be one of the most iconic photos of all time.
Absolutely. If he did not react that way, let's say he went down, they shuffled him off, you really couldn't tell what was going on. We didn't hear a lot for quite a while. There would have been a lot of speculation of others that would have been maybe in his position. Is he going to pull out of the race or everything? That question didn't even come up because
because of his natural instinct and the way he reacted to the situation. And nobody told him to do that. So that's just him. It is, like Dale said, it is telling of the human being that he is. And one thing that I do want, I'm not trying to condemn people. CNN, their first headline was Trump rushed off stage after he falls at Pennsylvania Road. Shame on you people. Shame. No, it's not funny. It's not funny. Shame on you people. Shame on you people. And they also sent out a thing to reporters that read, "Don't call it assassination attempt. Stick to the facts. Don't give it more seriousness and whatever." It's just
Crap.
Shameful.
Even Joe would not answer the question, was it an assassination attempt?
Oh, no. He said that he has his opinion, but he has no facts. That was
what the hell else was it? A stray bullet from a gang member from somewhere?
Right. Yeah, exactly. It just.
Well, I want to address, and I haven't talked to you about this, Ryan, and Ryan and I have not spoke about this very much. It was probably good that I was busy most of the afternoon and evening last night, but this moving forward, and this is going to encompass a lot. Think about when the Pope goes out in public in the Pope Mobile, completely surrounded by bulletproof glass. I don't know if the current Pope, but in the past at least, and I'm sure they still have that. This changes dramatically how you move forward because there's so many things that come into play. We were maybe a little, and I don't think we're hard. We brought out the fact that there was an error somewhere for something as simple as this to be overlooked. But think about when you're in a city, when there's skyscrapers, there's 1,000 different elevation points that they have to be covering, all these things. I guess what I'm getting at, if there is enough people with even minimal training or abilities that want to take out anybody, whether it's me, Ryan, a presidential candidate, doesn't matter who it is, if they're committed enough to do so and there are enough of them, guess what? Almost impossible to stop, in my opinion.
No, they'll try.
Yeah.
But I bet he doesn't change anything.
So that's the question. I don't know, even if you put everything in place to try to up the security, put him behind bulletproof glass all around him. I mean, you'd almost have to put him into a bubble to stop someone that really wanted.
I mean, do I think they will up security? Do I think this mistake will be corrected? Yes. Do I think that he won't have rallies with thousands and thousands? No, I do not. I do not believe that. This is not going to scare him away.
No, and I don't know where that's going to be, but I lean that way as well. I guess what I'm getting at my
hope is, I'm with you that and I don't want to wish this, but now that someone has tried and almost succeeded, how many copycats are going to think, I can get him?
And it didn't even look like it was that difficult for this person to accomplish what he almost accomplished. Does that make sense?
But we haven't brought this up. If Trump would not have turned his head at that precise moment, this would be a completely different situation. I'm not saying the man would have been dead, but instead of the bullet grazing his ear, it would have hit his head.
If it hits his head anywhere other than where it did, I assume with that caliber, he's dead.
Well, I don't know that, but I'm just saying, if he would not have turned his head in that precise moment, this is a completely different situation. And every network has said that.
It's just hard, really, really hard. So let's, and I don't want to make this very long. I mentioned that earlier. So Thomas Crook, I don't know what, the 20-year-old that was the shooter.
There's just no information
about that yet. So we don't know. I'm going to make an assumption that he's crazy. I think that's fairly accurate. But who knows what pushed him over the edge, why. We will know all of that later when it comes out. And I guess when I go larger picture, and I'm not saying that this shooter was one of these at all, just probably a crazy person that decided he's going to be the martyr and save the country or wanted to who knows what reason. But Ryan, how many foreign leaders would benefit from Trump not being elected?
Well, I think it depends on which foreign leaders you're talking about, because I think there are a lot of foreign leaders that want him reelected.
Yeah.
I think there's just as many that probably don't. China, Putin, Rocket Man. And so.
And you could throw Iran in there and every terrorist group on the planet.
Oh, yeah.
So throw Russia, China, North Korea, Iran and every terrorist group on the planet. And what has happened since Joe took office? What can any of those countries and or terrorist group
walk or swim across the border?
So why when it's that large of a benefit for them to not have Trump in office? How I cannot imagine that each one of those countries and or terrorist organizations has not put in play people here to not only commit terrorist acts, but possibly to take out somebody like President Trump, because the door was wide open. They can. It wasn't anything difficult to accomplish here in the past few years. So I can't imagine that those are not in place. And if you have multiples, which I'm assuming those countries would do if they wanted to get this done, absolutely the opportunity, it's almost from a Secret Service standpoint, it is so difficult to stop something like that from happening if you have people that were trained in multiples that are willing to try today, tomorrow, the next day, and just keep throwing people at it. I hate to say this, but statistically speaking, if the president goes out in public at all, it is almost impossible to stop at this point if there's organization behind it and multiple people here that would like to do it. Maybe there's not, but I cannot imagine, as crazy as she is, as power hungry as she is, Putin, we know, is a nutcase. Your little rocket man, he's going to do anything. Iran, you know where they stand. And what about all the terrorist groups, ISIS? Basically, Trump wiped most of them off the planet. There's plenty of them that would like to take him out. And unfortunately, we've made it easier for them to put themselves in a position to do so. And that's a really scary situation, in my opinion. So with this open border, we've basically, think about Mexico and some of the other, I guess, third world countries. There are politicians taken out all the time. This is normal. We've had enough security and we've had our borders closed up that we've made efforts to keep a lot of those foreign assassins, terrorists, whatever you want to call it, out of our country. And usually when something happens here in the country, it's somebody that's crazy that was triggered by something other than a foreign adversary. But now let's bring the foreign adversaries into play, and you've got a mess like we've never seen. And the problems that the current administration has put this country into, we have just begun to understand. This is going to become overwhelming over the next few years, irregardless whether President Trump is in office or whoever it is. There's so much damage that is done. I'm not saying it's irreversible, but we're going to suffer a very, very long time for the policy. Basically, let's point heavily at that open border, that it's a mess. And I'm genuinely concerned about just how bad it's gotten. And I wanted to circle all the way back, like Miss Jen Psaki, when you talk about dialing down some of the rhetoric, Ryan. It comes from both sides, but I see it a lot more so from the other side in terms of those strong statements. I've never watched The View, but I see clips on the news every once in a while. And they're crazies, and they're saying things that I can't even imagine. And I'm not one to hold back and shoot somebody in the kneecap type talk. But I'll tell you what, it is insane where we're at with the rhetoric and the mentally disturbed people out there that may take that very, very seriously, because they're putting it out there in a serious note that we have to be very, very careful. So there's so much in play right now. I'm truly concerned about the long-term damage, and I don't see a good way out. But I can promise you, the best path out is somebody like Trump in that office that can stand up. Ryan, you mentioned it earlier. They've thrown everything at him. I don't know how a person can take that much criticism, have that much thrown at him, and still keep plugging forward, including the assassination attempt. But guess what? He's going to.
Oh yeah, he's. And like you said, we don't want this to run long, and we're running long. So my end thought on this is he is not going to quit. I think this has fortified him more than ever. I know that it has fortified his supporters to the nth degree. I think that several people that probably were on the fence has probably this incident right here has swung them over. If you are a Trump supporter come November 5th, you will wait in a line 16 hours after this to vote for him. It will not matter. That is my opinion. And the one thing that I thought of last night, and I did some research to make sure I was right. And this is what I'll end with. And Dale, if you have some ending thoughts, there have been 3 Republican presidents that have been attempted assassinations on: Abraham Lincoln, who they did assassinate, Reagan, and Trump. That's pretty God-blessed good company to be in right there.
That is Kennedy.
No, I said Republican.
Oh, sorry. Okay, I'm thinking, wait a minute.
He was not a Republican,
No,
sir.
I didn't catch your Republican part.
Yeah. 3 Republican. There's been lots of other presidential candidates and presidents assassinated or attempted to assassinate, but the 3 Republicans, I did research on this.
Wow.
Lincoln, Reagan, and Trump.
And I'm going to age myself, but I remember the day that I was probably my younger even than my youngest children right now, but I made a comment to him that this is history, guys, and you're living through it right now. But I can remember the day when Reagan was shot. I don't remember a lot about it, but I remember it hitting me pretty hard at that time. And this from a historical perspective, Ryan, you alluded to it earlier that picture, it's going to be seen forever.
Oh yeah, that will be one of the most iconic photos of all time, and I think for most Americans, maybe not the very few that are way out there in the streams. For most Americans, the overwhelming majority of Americans, Democrat, Independent, Republican, you don't want to see this happen to anyone. And this will be etched in history forever.
Absolutely. Well, Ryan, thank you for jumping on. Hopefully we can get this out as quick as possible, because everything's going to change by the minute on what details are going to be coming out. And I don't have words.
No. So anyway, just everybody keep your thoughts for the victims, that the one that was killed and the 2 that are fighting for their life, and Trump and his family. And thank you to all the law enforcement, Secret Service, and first responders for the job that they did.
Absolutely.